She stomped onto my driveway, waving a clipboard like she owned the place. "You can't park here! This is HOA property now," she screamed, her voice echoing across the empty fields. I stared at her, my hands gripping the steering wheel, confused. "This is my land," I said slowly, trying to stay calm. "You don't even live here," she shouted, pulling out a paper that looked official but smelled like trouble. Before I could answer, she snapped a picture of my truck and shouted, "I'm calling the cops." Within minutes, a couple of uniformed officers arrived. I stepped out, holding my keys, trying to explain that I owned the ranch legally. She rolled her eyes, smirking like she had done this 1,000 times. "You're trespassing," she said flatly. The cops looked at her papers, frowned, and turned to me. "Do you have proof this is your property?" I reached into the glove compartment and pulled out the deeds, stamped and signed. Evidence that should have ended the fight right there. But she wasn't done. "Those are fake. The HOA bought this land decades ago," she lied, her tone sharp and certain. My jaw tightened. Something about her confidence screamed danger, but also told me she knew she was bluffing. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a neighbor whispering frantically, "Karen's bringing in trucks to block your driveway. She's turning your ranch into a public parking lot." I looked outside and froze. Big orange cones were already appearing, and strangers were pulling in like this was some community event. I took a deep breath and stepped closer to her, keeping my voice steady. "You might think you can scare me, but I'm not in your HOA. I own this land outright. And whatever you're planning, it stops now." She laughed, a sharp, high-pitched laugh that made my skin crawl. "We'll see about that," she said, dialing on her phone like she controlled the whole world. And just like that, chaos began, right in front of my ranch. The first twist hit me hard. She wasn't just calling fake cops. She was mobilizing the whole HOA army, ready to take over my land while I stood there, trying to figure out how to fight back. By the time I ran around to the back, more trucks had rolled in, blocking every exit. People were wandering onto my property, snapping photos, treating my private ranch like a free parking lot. I felt my blood boil, but I stayed quiet, scanning the scene. Then I noticed something strange. One of the trucks had an unfamiliar license plate not registered to any HOA vehicle. I walked up to the driver, trying to stay calm. "Hey, who sent you? This is private property." The man blinked, hesitated, and muttered something about the HOA instructions. That hesitation gave me an idea. I quickly pulled out my phone and started filming everything. Every truck, every person, every cone she'd placed. This was going to be proof if I needed it. Karen, perched like a hawk on her clipboard, spotted me recording. Her face went pale for a second, then she regained that fake confidence. "Stop filming. You can't record this," she barked, storming toward me. I held my phone steady, stepping back. "Actually, I can. And I'm going to," I said. Suddenly, one of the trucks hit a small dip and got stuck. The driver cursed, trying to push it free, while Karen shouted instructions like she was some general leading an army. But the stuck truck caused a domino effect. The next vehicle backed into another, honking, and chaos exploded. People were shouting, cones were flying, and for a moment it looked like the HOA army was falling apart before it even began. I didn't relax, though. I knew Karen wouldn't give up that easily. She whipped out her phone again, probably calling more reinforcements or fake cops. That's when a tiny twist hit me. I noticed the same neighbor from before hiding behind a tree, waving frantically. She was holding a stack of old HOA newsletters and maps. "They've been lying about this land for years," she whispered. My heart skipped a beat. There was more to this than just a parking stunt. Karen had been scheming for decades, and somehow I was about to uncover the truth. I moved closer to the neighbor, keeping my phone rolling. "Show me," I whispered. She handed over the newsletters, yellowed and crumpled, with dates stretching back 40 years. And then I saw it. An old map showing the original HOA boundaries. My ranch wasn't even inside them. Not even close. Karen had been claiming land that legally wasn't hers for decades. I felt a rush of adrenaline. This wasn't just about trucks and cones anymore. This was about exposing a lie she'd been using to bully everyone around. But before I could celebrate, Karen's voice cut through the chaos like a knife. "Stop, I know the law. I own this." She waved her phone, probably recording me now, trying to twist the story. I took a deep breath, hiding my excitement. "Oh, really?" I said, holding up the map. "Looks like you've been trespassing on my property." Her eyes widened for a fraction of a second, then she laughed, trying to cover it up. That's just a map. Maps aren't legal. I stepped forward calmly, letting the tension build. Funny because this map comes with notarized records and it matches your own HOA filings. You've been lying to everyone, Karen. Her hands shook slightly and I could see the panic creeping in. Then another twist hit. One of the trucks started moving again, but it wasn't out of control. It rolled backward slowly, straight toward the cone she had set up to block the driveway. People scrambled, yelling, and the chaos turned into a spectacle. Karen tried to shout orders, but no one listened. She looked ridiculous, yelling at a mess she created herself. I smiled to myself. This was my chance. Not only could I prove she was lying about the HOA boundaries, but now the entire public stunt she'd planned was collapsing in front of everyone. And the best part? I hadn't even called the cops yet. My hidden power wasn't just the property deeds, it was knowing exactly how to turn her own chaos against her. I stepped onto the driveway, holding the map high so everyone could see. "Everyone listen up," I shouted, my voice cutting through the shouting and honking. "This ranch is private property. The HOA doesn't own it. She's been lying." The crowd froze, some looking confused, others starting to whisper among themselves. Karen's face turned red, her smirk faltering. "That's not true. You can't prove anything," she yelled, waving her phone like a weapon. But I stayed calm. I pulled out my laptop from the truck and connected it to a small portable screen. Old HOA filings, tax records, and property deeds flashed across the screen. Every piece of evidence was there, clear as day. People gasped. Some HOA supporters muttered under their breath, realizing they'd been duped. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. You can't do that," she stammered. I smiled, letting her panic simmer while I calmly addressed the crowd. "She's been pretending this land isn't mine for years, trying to control people and turn my property into her playground. This ends today." And then the next twist hit me. A truck pulled up behind Karen, not part of the HOA convoy. Out stepped a sheriff's deputy I recognized from my past volunteer work. "I got a call about a property dispute and possible trespassing," he said, eyeing Karen. Her confident facade cracked completely. It's not like that," she stuttered. I stepped aside, letting the deputy examine the deeds and the screen. As he nodded, Karen realized she was cornered. Her fake authority and lies had crumbled in front of the crowd, and now real law enforcement was here. She tried to argue, but no one listened. Her empire of false power was collapsing, and the look on her face was pure disbelief. I felt a mix of relief and satisfaction. The chaos she had tried to create, the trucks, the cones, the staged invasion, it all backfired spectacularly. And the best part? This was just the beginning. Karen didn't know it yet, but her stunt to turn my ranch into public parking had just become her worst nightmare. Karen froze as the deputy flipped through the documents, her confidence evaporating with every page. This isn't possible," she stammered, glancing at the crowd now fully watching her unravel. Some of her own HOA supporters were shaking their heads, whispering, clearly realizing they'd been used. I took a slow step forward. "Check the dates. Check the boundaries. You've been lying to intimidate people, claiming my land is yours." My voice was calm, but every word carried the weight of years of her bullying. The deputy looked up at me, nodding slightly. "Sir, it seems you have full legal ownership here. She's been misrepresenting the HOA boundaries." Her hands trembled as she tried to dial her phone, probably to summon backup or fake cops again. But before she could, one of the neighbors who had been filming everything stepped forward. "I've got footage of your trucks blocking the driveway, people trespassing. This all goes on record." Her eyes widened, realizing the evidence against her was piling up, and the crowd murmured in agreement. And then another twist hit. Karen lunged toward the trucks, yelling at the drivers to move. But one of the trucks stalled again, this time right in front of her, blocking her escape. People couldn't stop laughing and shouting. She was trapped, and it wasn't even physical violence, just the perfect storm of her own making. I took a deep breath, letting the moment sink in. My family had been safe, my property untouched, and her lies were being exposed publicly. But I kept the recording running, knowing that this was going to be her most humiliating lesson yet. Karen had underestimated me, and underestimated the power of truth, evidence, and a calm mind when chaos strikes. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes, the same fear I had felt watching her try to take over my land. And I knew, just knew, The final twist, her public downfall, was about to hit. Karen's face had turned an ugly shade of red, her hands shaking as she realized the entire crowd was against her. You can't do this," she shrieked, her voice cracking. But the deputy stepped closer, firmly. "Ma'am, based on these records and evidence, you've been trespassing and misrepresenting authority. You need to leave now." She froze, glancing at the neighbors, the trucks, the recordings, and finally at me. For a moment, it looked like she might try something desperate, but the tension was broken when one of the HOA's own supporters whispered loudly, "She lied about the boundaries. She tricked all of us!" Heads turned, murmurs spread, and the momentum shifted completely. Then the final twist in this chapter hit. Her phone rang, and she answered it desperately. It was a lawyer from her HOA board, stern and clipped. "Karen, stand down immediately. You're exposing the HOA to legal action. Stop this nonsense or you'll be personally liable." Her smirk vanished. Her voice faltered. I can't." She hung up, realizing she had no backup left. I felt a strange mix of relief and triumph. The trucks began to leave, cones were removed, and the chaos she had tried to create was reversed. People started cheering quietly, some clapping, others shaking their heads at the absurdity. Karen, now powerless and exposed, tried to gather herself, but the damage was done. I stepped forward, holding my map and deeds up once more. "This ranch is private. My family and I have lived and fought for it. And we're not going anywhere. Not today. Not ever." The crowd erupted into quiet applause, and Karen's defeated glare followed me as I walked toward my house. For the first time, I realized just how dangerous entitlement and lies could be, but also how satisfying it was to watch truth, law, and calm strategy crush them. My ranch was safe, my family was safe, and the message was clear. No one, not even a raging HOA Karen, could take what wasn't theirs. Karen stood frozen at the edge of the driveway, her face a mix of fury and disbelief. She opened her mouth, probably to yell, but the deputy shook his head. "Ma'am, this is your final warning. Leave the property immediately or we'll have to take further action." She swallowed hard, realizing there was no army left, no fake authority, and no way to spin her lies this time. As she stomped off toward her car, the neighbor who had helped me whispered, "You know, she's been doing this to other people for years. You just happened to catch her on the wrong ranch." My heart sank for all the past victims, but I also felt a surge of resolve. I wasn't going to let her try again. Then, another twist, the deputy handed me his card. "Keep this. If she comes back or tries anything else, call me directly. We'll handle it. You've got everything on record." Relief washed over me. The chaos, the trucks, the fake authority, it was all contained now. I looked around at the scattered cones, the trucks driving away, and the crowd of neighbors, some still whispering in awe. My ranch was quiet again, the fields stretching endlessly, calm after the storm. My family appeared at the porch, eyes wide, silently cheering. I smiled at them, feeling a deep, unspoken bond. We had survived an attack, not just on our property, but on our peace. Finally, I turned my gaze toward the horizon, knowing this wasn't just about land. It was about standing up, about truth, and about not letting anyone bully you off what's yours. Karen had learned her lesson, but the real victory was quiet, steady, and deeply satisfying. My ranch, my rules, my family, and my freedom, untouched, unstoppable, and fully ours. The next morning, the ranch was eerily peaceful, as if the chaos from yesterday had never happened. Birds chirped, the sun glinted off the fences, and the only evidence of the HOA invasion were a few scattered cones and the lingering tension in the air. I walked along the driveway, checking the gates and making sure everything was intact, when my phone buzzed again. It was a message from the neighbor who had handed me the old newsletters. "You might want to check the county records from the 1970s, it read. My curiosity piqued. I opened the online database and started digging. What I found made my jaw drop. Karen's HOA had been quietly filing fake property claims, trying to extend boundaries and even collect fees from lands they didn't own. My ranch wasn't just safe, it was proof of a decades-long scheme. I felt a thrill. Not only had I defended my property, but I had stumbled onto something much bigger. Karen wasn't just a nuisance. She was part of a corrupt network that had been bullying neighbors for years. And now, armed with deeds, videos, and records, I had the tools to expose it fully. Just then, I heard a car approaching. I looked up to see Karen pacing outside her car, phone in hand, staring straight at me. But this time, she didn't yell. Her face was pale, cautious. She knew the tide had turned completely. I raised my hand casually, still holding the records, and she froze. And that's when I realized the final twist wasn't just about defending my ranch. It was about taking control. Karen had underestimated me, and the game was no longer hers. The ranch was safe, yes, but now the next move was mine, and I intended to make sure her lies were exposed once and for all.